Hi everybody, I'm Bill Sanders and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today what I want to do is that I want to talk about strategies, techniques, practices, whatever you want to call them, for getting a watch that you really want. And the kind of things, when I say you really want it, maybe I'm thinking maybe what I really want. But you want something with a good movement. You don't want to pay a lot of money for a watch that's got a cheap movement. You want decent finishing. You want good materials in the watch. And I tell you, one of the things that's really important, you want something that's affordable. Nobody wants to, and nobody should either, go into some kind of terrible debt for a watch. And so the kind of questions that I think we need to ask are, what is it that may help us get an edge on this? Now, I got my little cartoon there where, some old guy is telling a kid that his Philippe Dufour isn't worth very much. And I got a little thing, that's you. Well, it's me too. It's all of us. If we don't know about what we're doing and we don't know all of the opportunities, I think that'll happen to us every time. So let's take a look at some of the watches. Now, the first one I want to talk about is that, and it has to do with changes. A couple watches and I still have them and I love them both, are actually, ended up with four of them, two brands that I like. One is H. Moser et Compagnie, and the other one is Parmigiani Fleurier. At one time, I was able to find them at greatly reduced prices, brand new ones. And as a result, I got two Mosers, which I absolutely love, and I have two Parmigianis. Now, one of the things that I've noticed has happened is that the price of both of them has been going up. This on the Parmigiani there, the list price of that, I think it's a Tonda 1950, it was about $9,800, and the one that I'm showing there for roughly $5,000, so you're talking about almost half price. That watch, when I went to look at it, it was reserved already. So there's still some really nice Parmigianis available. And so for a while, some more so than others, but one that I used to always sort of wring my hands about getting was one that was made for the Brazil World Cup. And they had a special version of the Pershing with the organization for the World Cup people there. And it was down, I think, a brand new one, I think as low as around $4,000 or $5,000, something like that, really good price. But suddenly they zoomed up. The one I was looking at one time, now it's 10 or 15,000. I mean, so Parmigiani is because they've got super good quality. And but the prices are all over the place, and so there's still a place we can really find a great deal. With H. Moser, a lot of things have changed. In fact, certain models have gone the other way. They're charging a premium for them. The new three-handed streamliner with the green dial is a lot more than the list price right now. I think the list price is around 20,000, something like that. But I've seen them now. They were advertised for 27,000 by somebody else who got their hands on one. So when watches are a really good deal at some point, if they're a good deal because of the quality of the watch, and with both of these watches, that was the case. Pretty soon people get wise to it and they start buying them all up. And then the manufacturer also says, hey, so they begin recognizing that. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Now, another area that is very rich fishing grounds is what I call the fashion brands. Now, the fashion brands, nobody wants a fashion watch. No real collector does, because the fashion watch is really, some cheap movement. Even a lot of them are quartz movements, and they put the logo of the company on front of it. Well, sometimes when you see a fashion brand, you figure, aha, that must be a fashion watch. With some cases that's true, but more and more what we're seeing is that the fashion brands are simply another watch company. One that's really been around for a lot longer than I realized is Van Cleef and Arpels. And they tend to have Jaja Lecoultre movements, or in one that I have, it has an Agenor movement in it, and they're just unbelievably nice watches. Now, here are two that I found. The one on the left is a world timer, and just a super gorgeous watch. Now, it's 36 millimeters, which may be a little narrow, but not too bad. For years, I wore a 37 millimeter overseas, so it wasn't too bad. But this one, man, I tell you, I've been looking for a world timer, and this is just a beauty. The movement in this one is Jaja Lecoultre caliber 918. Now, the other one is a GMT with an alarm, and I put in around 6,000. I've seen them vary from around 5 to 7, so it depends, I guess, maybe on the quality or what you can get them for, but they're right around $6,000. 42 millimeters. I know a guy who got one. They're very nice. He's very happy with it. So here, what you have is that, well, for a price that you'd be paying 2 or 3 times as much for, you can get a really nice watch. And that world timer by Van Cleef and Arpels is very, very tempting to me. They tend to be, that particular model tends to be a little older. I think they're from, they were made in the 1990s, maybe, perhaps even early 2000s. But this is why you go hunting for. You try to find quality and not worry about the brand so much. Some, but not so much. Now, here are a couple other fashion brands with really great movements. One of the most interesting companies is Chanel. As everybody knows, that Chanel bought 20% of FP Journe. Now, they're not getting anything from FP Journe in terms of watch material for Chanel branded watches. However, there is that connection. They may be doing something with the cases that are owned by FP Journe or something else. I really don't know. Now, the caliber 12.1, now the J12 has been around for a while, and they've had everything from Audemars Piguet movements to ETA movements. So they're all over the map. But 2019, they came out with this caliber called the 12.1, and it's by a company called Kinnessy that they bought 20% of. Then the other part of it is owned by Tudor, which means it's owned by Rolex, or at least they're part of Rolex. But the thing about this that I like is the price, $5,700. That's the list going to a ritzy Chanel boutique, and that's what they were going to charge you for it, which I think is great. The thing of it is that you got to be careful if you're getting one, because you want to be sure to get one with that caliber 12.1, and you flip it over on the back, and you can tell that's not some cheap caliber. They really did a heck of a job. Now, another company that is very much associated with fashion is Hermes, and they've won a number of Grand Prix awards for some of their watches, and one is called the Hermès Slim de Hermès L'Heure Impatient, which is basically the impatient hour. Now, Hermès owns 25% of Vachour, and Vachour makes all of the movements for Parmigiani. And so you're going to have a lot of Michel Parmigiani influenced designs on the movements. That's what he does. He designs movements and watches. And this one has what's called the Caliber H1912, which is said, well, this is an Hermès 1912. It's their manufacturer, their in-house. Now, I'm not positive exactly to what extent that is Hermès working with Vachour, or they got their own little workshop doing some stuff. But it's certainly a so-called fashion brand that has some really top-notch, not only designs, but also movements. This particular watch and a few others by Hermès also contain an Agenor module. So, I mean, that's, you have some really top-notch kinds of things in that. So don't, find out what's in a fashion brand. There's some other ones that have some surprises in them too, and they don't cost as much. All right, now another rich area of sort of fishing grounds is the discontinued models. And there are a lot of them I really like. My favorite Rolex is their discontinued prints. I have no idea why they discontinued that. That's a cool watch. But, they weren't selling, so they discontinued it. Here are a couple. One is the Vacheron Constantin Royal Eagle chronograph. This particular one was $8,000. And by Patek Philippe is a line of watches called a gondola. Now, there are a whole lot of gondolas. And they sort of hit a certain place, and all of a sudden you can see the price go up. And that was because I think it was because of the shape movement. And once they put a shape movement in, they somehow were more valuable. But I tell you, that shape movement is really beautiful. But those are more than what I try to do is find something under $10,000. Okay, now here's some other ones. I call them overlooked gems. Here are a couple. One is the Speak Marin, which is this particular one. He has some other ones that are sort of like a Miser standard, the time only. But this one I really like. It's a three-hand watch with a hand date. Well, actually a four-hand watch with a hand date, and then the hour, minute, and second hands. I think it's a very, very cool design. Now, the movements that Speak Marin used were, had one called an Eros 1, which was made by a company that's no longer around called Technotime. But they also used Vachour movements, which are excellent movements. And so this is the thing about not only this particular watch, but a lot of Speak Marin, is you have to find out what movement's in it. And so you can find some really good gems out there. This one, I love the design of this. This one's $4,300. And, this is something to keep an eye out for. Now, again, you don't want to buy a watch you don't like. If you don't like it, then, if you don't like the looks of it or whatever else about it. But these are watches, I think they're really very good watches. He's an AHCI member, which they give Peter Speak is. And so he belongs to sort of an elite group, or did at one time, and the business part got him, I think. It gets everybody. Now, another one is Hotulence. Now, Hotulence was really red hot for a while, and then it cooled off very quickly. I saw one the other day that was originally $60,000, and it was being sold for a discounted down to $12,000. And so this is another kind of company. They're owned by the same family that owns H. Moser Company. So you've got some, you have some really, the Mayen family is a very strong Swiss family that's been doing this for years. Really excellent. Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was doing a search, and this is just sort of what I found about it. And when I do a search, I found out I used to go to Chrono 24 or eBay or someplace like that, or some of my favorite spots where I knew they had good deals on watches, like Joma Shop, what's it called, Shop Worn, even Time of Touch of Movement, Touch of Modern. I'd go and look at those places. What I found was a lot more, really broadened things out, was simply to put in the name of the watches that I was looking at. In this case, I put in a FPG Residence, Chrono Residence. And so all of these pictures of them came up, and then you pick one out, and then up on the far right it shows up, and you take a look at it. And what I did is that I opened it up. Now, one of the things that I found out is that, really looks to details. This is a place called Hush Hush. I don't know why it's called that, but that's the name of it. And what I found out was that the Chrono 24 Watermark. So I thought, I wonder what's going on with this watch. Now, the price on it, $64,000, $645.99. God knows where they came up with that price from. But we'll just, to make it easy, we'll say it's about 64 and a half, something like that, for this watch. So I thought, well, let me just check, just to be sure. I'm going to go back and take a look at the prices of these things on Chrono 24. So I went back to Chrono 24, was looking at the FPG Residence, and they were, all of them were over $100,000. And so wait a minute. The one is brand new. Now I have an older one with the brass movement plates on it, and that thing's supposed to be worth a lot. But these, these are crazy prices. And so what the irony of it is, if we go back to Hush Hush, we find them at about half of that. And so what the point is sometimes you can find really good deals on interesting watches in places that you normally wouldn't look. Maybe this guy had his Chronomet Souverain on Chrono 24 for a while and couldn't sell it, so he thought, well, I'll try this other place. And you don't know. But the thing is that I think if you break your habits of doing things one way, you can really open things up to find a lot of really good buys. And of course, the more you know, the more good buys that you can recognize. So anyway, well, listen, I'd like to hear your feedback on this, any kind of comments. Now, none of us, at least I'm not, are going to be paying $64,000 for a watch, but I just brought this up to point out, look at the differences. You have a lot, you can find this relative price differences just by hunting around. That's the point. Let's hear from you, hear what you have to say. It's an invitation to subscribe if you'd like. And until next time, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection.